For many, podcasting is an end goal, but many creators are using podcasting as a way to reach more people who prefer listening to podcasts, by reformatting their previously created content. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Black Widow killed it at the box office last weekend. No big surprise there. It's a Marvel movie. But what is surprising is that it also killed it in streaming as a very expensive $30 add-on for Disney Plus subscribers, of which I am. And to add on to that surprise is the sheer number of illicit copies of Black Widow available as soon as it came out on various torrent servers. Basically, if you wanted to watch that movie, you could buy a ticket to your local theater. You could stream it for free, sorta, on your home, whether you paid for it or did not pay for it. And you could even download a copy. You could do all those things. And people did. To crazy degrees. As I mentioned, it's killing it in all of those places. Now, what's all this have to do with podcasting? Well, I draw your attention to something I noticed last week. And that is that Macmillan Publishing, big book publisher, what they're doing with their repurposed Stories from the Stars podcast feed. Macmillan is currently releasing full audiobook versions of some of their most popular titles on that feed. But they're doing it one chapter at a time in serialized podcast form. Now, if that sounds familiar to those of you who've known me for more than a decade, yeah, this is a familiar thing with new life once again. You see, back in the day, I helped, let's say a few hundred underpublished authors, we'll call them, do that same thing. Way back in 2005 when we got started, when we launched a company called audiobook.com, which is now folded into another company. But a few authors, like Scott Sigler and Cory Doctorow and Paul E. Cooley, they're still doing this same thing today, releasing the full version of their books in audio form, in podcast form, for the listeners. Macmillan is just the first, at least the first I can think of immediately, big publisher to adopt this model. Now, they're currently releasing 3 Body Problem, which is amazing. One of the best stories I've actually read a few years back. And yes, I am actually listening to the professionally produced audiobook in serialized form on that feed. Now, what these 2 examples, Black Widow's massive release, even though it was available in lots of different places, as well as what Macmillan is doing right now with their Stories from the Stars feed, what these 2 examples show us is basically a drum I've been beating for years now, and it's this. The container often matters as much as the content. People will naturally gravitate towards the container that fits their needs best at that time. They may also, and oftentimes will also, select another container, a container that contains the same content at a different time when their needs change. People my age remember watching movies they'd already watched in the theaters when those movies were shown on TV. Broadcast TV, and we'd sit through the commercials and we'd deal with the edited for TV changes they made. We listen to audiobooks we've already read in print book form. We'll watch stage, movie, and I guess television series adaptations of content we've already consumed, partly because we love the content, but also partly because we want to see, and in some cases hear, someone else's take on that same content as they put it in a new container. And digital containers, it's been proven time and time again, and Black Widow just proved it this last weekend, aren't cannibalistic to other forms of content. So here's what that means to you, podcaster, that has more than just a podcast. Put your courses online. Do a video series where you walk people through the exact same content that you have in another form, but you do it with a video. Or make a podcast version of that. Same thing, except now it's not requiring the visual element and works in the podcast form which you know how to create. Beyond that, record versions of you doing your podcast for things like TikTok and YouTube and live videos. Do whatever you can do, whatever you're able to do, to get and let your content spread as wide as you possibly can. Because you're much more than just a podcaster, if you want to be. The rationale for just doing the podcasting thing, but I think what we're seeing is a growing trend, because it's been 17 years or 20 years, depending on how you count. A growing trend of using podcasting as a vehicle, but not the only vehicle. Now, I'd love to get some more examples of podcasted, repurposed content. So come on over to the Advancing Podcasting community, advancingpodcasting.xyz, and share any that you might know of. And if you love the content I had to say, please go to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast, Pontifications. Cheers!